My name is Joseph Edward Smith. I'm 80 years old. I used to think $1 million in retirement was normal. I thought it was the number everybody serious was supposed to reach. I thought if I worked long enough, saved carefully, and stayed out of trouble, I would look around one day and realize most people my age had done it too. I was wrong. I was very wrong. And when I finally sat down with the numbers and looked at what Americans actually have saved for retirement, I felt two things at once. I felt grateful for the life I built, and I felt shocked for the people who still think they are behind everyone else, when the truth is most people are struggling far more than they know. You see, I spent my life around books, facts, reports, and hard numbers. I was a librarian for 38 years. I trusted data more than noise, and these numbers told a story that hit me hard. So I want to tell you what I learned, what surprised me most, what kind of people tend to reach that $1 million mark, and what I believe I would do right now if I were still trying to catch up. I remember sitting with my coffee and reading through the retirement numbers, and I had to stop more than once. Honestly, I expected the results to be bad, but not that bad. I saw that well over half of Americans had less than $10,000 saved for retirement. I couldn't get over that figure. I kept thinking about what $10,000 really means when I spread it across years of old age, medical bills, food, utilities, rent, and simple emergencies. So when I saw that number, I didn't just see a statistic. I had to read it again. I thought about the people I knew over the years who worked every day, paid bills, raised children, and assumed retirement would somehow come together at the end. I didn't know it at the time, but many of us were walking toward old age with almost nothing prepared. Then I kept going. I saw that another big group had saved less than $100,000. That meant roughly 3 out of 4 Americans had not even reached that first major milestone. And here's what I didn't understand then. Most people think the million is the mountain. It isn't. I believe the first real mountain is that first 100,000, and in today's world I would call it closer to 250,000. Let me explain. When I was younger, every dollar I saved felt small. It felt slow. It felt like it would never matter. I remember putting money into my account in my 20s and feeling almost silly, because the balance still looked modest and my salary was never glamorous. I remember driving an old car longer than I wanted. I remember saying no to upgrades friends of mine said I had earned. But after a certain point, my money started doing work I used to think only rich people could make money do. My investments started earning. Then those earnings started earning. Then time got involved. You know what surprised me most? The journey felt hardest long before it looked impressive on paper. I remember hearing old advice that said I should save 10% and I would be fine. I heard that for years. I heard it from decent people. I even believed it for a while. But I don't believe it now. I think that advice belonged to another time. Back then, many people had pensions. Back then, Social Security had more strength. Back then, housing costs and daily life did not squeeze people the way they do now. I had a pension from public service, and I am grateful for it. I owned property, and that helped me greatly. I delayed Social Security, and that helped too. But I still know the fourth leg of retirement. The money I saved and invested myself did more heavy lifting than many people want to admit. So when I looked at those numbers, I didn't see failure in ordinary people. I saw a system that changed while the advice stayed old. And I felt frustrated because I know what happens when people follow advice that is no longer enough. I know they blame themselves for not making broken math work. Then I looked at the next brackets. I saw that only a modest slice of Americans had between 100,000 and 500,000. I saw that an even smaller group had between 500,000 and just under $1 million. Then I reached the number that made me put the paper down and stare out the window. Only about 3.1% of Americans had 1 million to 5 million saved in retirement accounts, and only about 0.1% had more than 5 million. So when I combined those groups, I saw that only about 3.2% had $1 million or more saved for retirement. That was the moment the whole thing changed in my mind. I stopped thinking, why aren't more people there yet? I started thinking, why do so many people feel ashamed for not being in a group this small? You see, if I am comparing myself to a number almost nobody reaches, I can spend years feeling like a failure, even when I am doing better than most. That kind of confusion hurts people. It makes people panic. It makes people give up. It makes people feel poor when what they really are is uninformed. I think shame is one of the quietest financial killers there is. I think shame makes me avoid statements, avoid budgets, avoid hard conversations with my spouse, and avoid the exact actions that would help me most. But I didn't stop there, because retirement accounts are only part of the picture. I wanted to know how many millionaire households there are in America outside the value of the home. I kept reading. I saw that the number of millionaire households dropped hard during the financial crisis in 2008, then climbed over time, and nearly doubled by the years just before and during the pandemic period. I wasn't surprised by the crash part. I lived through that fear myself. I watched markets fall. I watched people freeze. I watched confident men suddenly sound fragile. I remember 2008 clearly. I remember how scary it felt to see balances fall and headlines scream at me every day. I remember Catherine looking at me at the kitchen table and asking if I wanted to make changes. I remember telling her I was scared, but I was not lost. I remember opening my account and hating what I saw. I remember thinking about my father losing his job and my old fear of instability rising in me again. But I also remember that I did not sell. I bought more. I was frightened, but I stayed with my plan. And here's what I didn't understand then. The people who keep going through ugly years often look brilliant later, but in the moment we usually just feel sick to our stomachs and unsure. That matters because wealth building often feels worst right before patience gets rewarded. I experience discipline as discomfort I choose not to run from. Then I looked at net worth by age, and that mattered to me because age changes the picture. I saw that younger households had much lower median net worth, which made sense. I saw that people in their mid-years had more. I saw that people from 55 to 64 had a much stronger median number. Then I saw that people from 65 to 74, the early retirement years, actually had even more on average before things started to drift lower again after 75. I understood that. I have lived that. I know what it is to enter retirement with momentum still working for me. I know what it is to keep assets growing for a while, even after the paycheck stops. But I also know that later years can bring healthcare costs, widowhood, family needs, and simple aging. I know that wealth does not just rise forever. Life starts making withdrawals, even when I try to be careful. After that, I started looking at the traits of people who tend to save the most. I want to be honest here. I do think higher income helps. Of course it helps. Anyone who says otherwise is pretending. It is easier for me to save when I earn more. But high income by itself proves nothing. I have known people who earned far more than I ever did, and still managed to save almost nothing. I have also known people with modest pay who built surprisingly strong lives because they controlled what went out. So I believe the first rule is simple, even if it is not easy. I have to spend less than I earn. The second rule is just as important. I can not only save, I have to invest. If I only save cash and time passes, inflation quietly eats the future I think I am protecting. I learned that slowly. I wish I had learned it faster. I spent enough years being cautious that I came close to mistaking caution for wisdom. But you see, cash that never grows can be its own kind of risk. I also saw that the highest earners had dramatically more in retirement savings and dramatically higher net worth overall. I cannot ignore that. I won't pretend the game feels the same at every income level. But I also noticed something else important. I noticed that many people who make a great deal of money still fail to save at all. That matters to me. It tells me income opens doors, but behavior decides whether I walk through them. I think about lifestyle inflation all the time. I think about how easy it is for me to upgrade quietly, then call that upgrade normal, then defend it as necessary. I know how that happens because I have watched it happen to smart people. I simply know the pattern. I know more money can solve problems, but I also know more money can create a more polished version of the same old mistakes. I also saw that home ownership played a major role for many people. I understand why. My homes and properties changed my life. They gave me leverage. They gave me appreciation. They gave me rental income. They gave me options. But I also know home ownership is not magic. I know it often reflects other advantages too. If I can afford to buy, that usually means I already have some stability. Still, I cannot deny that owning property helped many Americans build net worth in ways renting often did not. I remember my first property purchase clearly. I remember how nervous I felt signing those papers. But I also remember what that rent check felt like the first time it helped cover the mortgage. I remember the moment I understood that assets can support me if I choose carefully and stay patient. Education showed up too. I was not shocked by that either. More education often led to higher net worth. But even there, I do not think the diploma alone did the work. I think knowledge changes choices. I think patience changes outcomes. I think financial understanding keeps money from leaking out of my hands. Then I reached the part that bothered me most. I looked at how wealth is concentrated in this country. I saw that the lower half of Americans hold only a tiny share of total wealth. That stayed with me. It explained so much. It explained why ordinary people can work hard for decades and still feel like the ground is moving under them. It explained why retirement conversations can feel so cruel. We talk as if everyone is running the same race, but I don't believe that for a second. Some people are climbing with boots, some are climbing barefoot, some are carrying other people while they climb. So when I talk about saving and investing, I do not talk from some fantasy where life behaves. I talk from a life where plans get tested. So what would I say to anyone trying to catch up? I would say, I need to start where I am, not where I wish I had started. I would tell myself to stop waiting for the perfect number, the perfect year, the perfect mood. I would save something now. Then I would invest it. Then I would repeat that until it became part of my identity. Let me explain. I spent years learning that wealth is not only math. It is behavior. It is rhythm. It is refusing to let every raise become a new excuse to spend more. One of the smartest ideas I know is to split every raise. I would let half improve my life now and force half into my future. If I got a raise, I would not act like I had won the lottery. I would act like I had been handed a chance to move my future forward without feeling the whole sacrifice at once. And if I wanted a faster reset, I would look hard at my budget. I would ask myself what I truly need, what I merely want, and what I buy out of habit, boredom, stress, or ego. I like the idea of trying to keep my needs around half of my take-home pay, my wants around 30%, and my savings at 20%. I know that is hard. I know for some people it sounds impossible. I am not naive about that. But I also know many people never test themselves honestly. Many people say they cannot save more before they have really looked at where the money goes. I have done enough budget reviews in my own life to know that small leaks become large losses when I repeat them every month for years. I am not saying I should live without joy. I am saying I should learn the price of every habit I defend. I would also remind myself that catching up does not always mean hitting $1 million. I think that point matters. I think many people need relief from this idea that anything short of 7 figures means failure. I don't believe that. I believe improvement matters. I believe moving from 0 to 10,000 matters. I believe moving from 10,000 to 50,000 matters. I believe crossing the first 100,000 matters. I believe every step that gives me more freedom matters. And here's what I didn't understand then. Progress becomes easier to continue once I can finally see it. I know motivation often shows up after action, not before it. I built a very good life. I became a millionaire. I retired well. But you know what surprised me most? The money itself was never the real victory. The real victory was the calm. I bought time. I bought choices. I bought dignity. I bought the ability to help my family and sleep at night. I bought the freedom to say no. I bought the freedom to leave work on my own terms. I bought the freedom to enjoy a quiet morning without panic sitting beside me. If my words sound familiar to your life, then I want you to do something simple for me. I want you to leave me a comment and tell me where you are starting from, because I know many people feel alone in this. I want you to tell me your age and the number you are working toward, because I think honesty helps more than pretending. I want you to like this if I helped make the numbers feel clearer instead of scarier. And I want you to subscribe if you want more of these honest talks, because I believe retirement advice should feel like truth, not performance. I am not here to impress you. I am here to remind you that most people are not retiring with $1 million, and that does not mean I should quit, panic, or feel ashamed. It means I should get serious. It means I should get informed. It means I should begin. And if I have already begun, then it means I should keep going. If I have been afraid to look at my numbers, I think I should look anyway. That is how I would do it. That is how I did it. And that is what I hope you do next. I also want to say one more thing before I finish. I don't believe late starts cancel people. I don't believe regret has to become a permanent identity. I have made mistakes. I have delayed things I should have done sooner. I have worried when I should have acted. But I have also learned that one honest decision, repeated over many years, can still change a life. So if I am 50, 60, or even 70, I would rather make the next right move than spend another decade mourning the old wrong ones. I know the clock matters, but I also know action matters more than self-pity now.